and welcome to the program. My name is Chilufia Mwelwa. This program is brought to you with the courtesy of the Zambia Development Agency, ZDA, and of course, ZNBC. Today, we are looking at education in Zambia and how obviously this plays a very critical role in making sure that even as people get ready to go into the job market, they're ready. And that is also a very big part of investment in the country. And I'm privileged to be joined on the program by Professor Pinalo Chifonakeni, who is the Vice Chancellor, University of Lusaka. Hello, welcome to the program.
Thank you, and thank you, Chilofia, and good evening, viewers.
It's good to have you on the show, and I think education is very key and paramount, especially when we talk about investments, when we talk about growing the economy. You want a citizenry that is well educated. So to maybe get things started, Professor, you started University of Lusaka with obviously a few other colleagues. Just take us through that journey and how you decided to say, I think this could be something I could venture into.
Right, thank you. Education, like you have said, is very paramount to any developmental agenda of any nation or any society. Our move to get into the education started when we realized that there were very few institutions in the country that were offering tertiary education. And that was the Copperbelt University and the University of Zambia. Of course, there were one or two private institutions. And also there was just this increase in number of foreign institutions coming in the country to offer tertiary level education. And for me and my colleagues who ventured into the University of Lusaka business, had a background of working in the public universities.
Okay.
I was working for the Copperbelt University. That's where I started my lecturing or teaching career in 1995 up to 2000 when I went on to sabbatical leave. But I've been in the education associated institutions. I've headed the Zambia Institute of Banking and Financial Services. I've also been in charge of the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants. So it's not like University of Lusaka was like the beginning of my education career.
Right.
But in terms of getting into business, University of Lusaka, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just to give us an understanding of when you started, how, you know, the challenges, the difficulties. Give us a feel of, for example, how many students you started with.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy venture to get into.
I can imagine.
And especially just to get that appreciation and acceptance in society. We started with a link with the Copperbelt University. And our initial recruitment was 71. We had 71 postgraduate students for the MBA in Finance and General. That was our beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many students do you have now, off the top of your head?
At the moment, we're talking about 6,500 students. That is for both postgraduate and undergraduate programs, spanning over 56 programs from the initial of one program. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So in terms of being in a competitive business, because as much as you're providing tertiary education and giving knowledge to future employees or employers, how tough is this business? Because at the end of the day, you have to get a return from it.
Yeah. First and foremost, there is no business that is not competitive. Even politics are competitive. So every business that one ventures into, you need to realize that there is competition. Even at government level, at ministerial level, and if this would be very important, if each and every minister of any ministry realize that they are competing for resources amongst themselves, you will see wonders in this country. Even at public institutions, say the universities that are public run, they need to see themselves as being in a competitive environment.
Right.
University of Lusaka competes against its own agenda. We have set our agenda that we want to be on top.
Okay.
So we have to compete against ourselves to realize that agenda. And like you have said, when you go into business, if you're in a private institution, what you want to get is a profit and increase the share value the shares of the shareholders must be going up, so there should be a return. And if you are going to put up infrastructure, you must have a return. You cannot continuously borrow to put up infrastructure. Of course, borrowing is allowed, but to a certain limit.
To a certain level.
Yeah, you can't just continuously borrow, and then it means your business is not in your hands. Similarly, if public institutions were also doing their business to realize a surplus, you see what wonders we'll have in this country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So in ensuring that you know, you are in this business, you're competing with your own agenda, but how do you make sure that your footprint is felt in the country, but as well as attracting students from other countries?
Yeah. We have, like you have said, we attract students from other countries as well. We've got international students, mainly from Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia, Tanzania, and Malawi. To keep ourselves afloat, University of Lusaka comes up with unique programs that have never been done in this country before. And we look at what this country, in terms of resources, has, and try to ensure that we create skilled manpower that can realize the potential of those resources that we have in the country. At the moment, the University of Lusaka is offering a degree in public health. And we see this course as being very, very critical and important in this country in terms of health. Because if we had quite a good number of personnel that can help on the prevention side, then we shall spend less money on the clinical side. That doctors will spend time on real critical issues and not even just small diseases that can be prevented easily. And that's what we are doing with our public health program. We are also starting a degree, and at master's level also, in insurance and pensions management. This country is endowed with so much money in the insurance and pensions business. But we find that this money is not being so much utilized in terms of investments because we are lacking some certain skills. So we've introduced also a degree in actuarial science that goes hand in hand with insurance and pensions management. We are also starting next year a degree in physical studies that will basically be trying to bring out skills in terms of taxation and its management, taxation and public finance management. Yeah.
All right. So very, very attractive
to
any student within the country and, of course, outside.
And not only that, those are just on the program side, but even on the persons who deliver, the persons who teach, the persons who help do the research.
Right.
We want people who have actually practiced what they are teaching. Because it's very easy for me to become a lecturer because all you need is to have a master's. But have you been trained to become a lecturer?
That's right.
And that's where we are lacking at tertiary level, because if you go to primary and secondary school, the teachers who teach at primary and secondary school have been taught to be teachers. And they've been trained that when they go to class, this is how you approach a class, this is how you manage and handle a classroom situation, how you manage and handle pupils or students. But at the university level, it's a question of you having a master's, having a doctorate, or even being pronounced to be a professor. But UNILAS is actually changing that if you want to be a lecturer at University of Lusaka, you must go through our teaching and lecturing methodology program. You also need to undergo training in dissertation, supervision and marking, and also quality assurance.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to bring in the aspect of whether our Zambian syllabi is it sort of responding to the needs of what we want, the Zambian economy, what the industry is calling for. Because so many times we've spoken of how we have so many engineers graduating from universities, but we're still seeing our foreign nationals coming into this country and constructing some of these big, sort of infrastructure that we're seeing. Are we training people that the industry needs?
Like I've already alluded to, our training at tertiary level does not respond to our natural resources that we have, or even the things that we need in the industry, like you're talking about infrastructure development. Here I am developing an engineer who goes through the textbook. And UNILAS says no to that. What we want is to teach you outside the book. Because there is no way an engineer will come and teach another engineer. The lecturer engineer has never done any engineering practically. They could have even had a distinction at their first degree, went on to do their masters, and and went to do further studies, came back as a doctor. But like you have already said, how many of these huge infrastructure we're seeing in this country are being supervised or being constructed by indigenous Zambian companies? And it's because the classroom teaching does not even give you that feel of how to become an entrepreneur. Because if you look at the syllabi for engineers, for doctors, for nurses, for most of these, they lack the aspect of business management, they lack the aspect of finance, and they lack the aspect of customer service. Customer service is very critical. Whether you are an MD, you are a CEO, you are a minister, regardless of your position, even a preacher, a church elder, whatever you are, you need customer service. Very simple, basic things, which we lack in our curriculum. So how will this engineer become an enterprising person when they don't know the value of money? How many geologists have we produced in this country? And how many of the mines are being run by Zambians? But go back 20, 30 years ago when we had ZCCM, and we never had so many graduates from the universities. But our mines were doing well. Our mines built so much of the industries on the copper belt. And most of those guys who were running the mines were coming from NOTEC and the Zambia Institute of Technology, ZIT. And we converted ZIT into the Copper Belt University. But what has happened now? Who's running the mines? And the geologist, all they know is how to find a mineral and tell what the contents are in that stone, but do not know what can be turned out of that stone. Why should up to today be importing copper wires from China when the origin of that copper wire has been the copper from this country? What did they know what can come out of an emerald? What can come out of an emerald?
So that is what you're trying to change.
That's what we're trying to change, that teach these people practical aspects of everything, and everything that they need to see must have an aspect of finance. That you can always make money out of everything that you have. Look at the mukula tree. How much money can you make out of the mukula if we knew what you can make out of that mukula? The guys who are doing forest management, what is it that they understand about the value of the timber that we have? So there are so many things that we have in this country that are not related to what people get trained for. Or we end up with papers, and they have graduations, and we send them into the industry. And you realize that when you read newspapers or you go into the internet and see how many people go now for further studies, just companies now sending people to even basic, like I've already mentioned, customer service, financial management for non-finance, things that they would have done at their tertiary education level and would have concentrated on productivity. But we're spending so much time on workshops.
Right. So the common song now, Professor, is entrepreneurship. Yes. And you know, we want to teach this to our young children now. Like you've said, now we want to have a generation of young people who can get up and go and think outside the box. You've managed in this. You worked in the public service, now you're in the private sector. And what could you point out as some of the challenges? How have you stayed afloat? How are you thriving?
Like I've said, it's about passion. Being in class and getting a degree is one thing. Like I've said, most of the people that teach at the university level, and maybe at even college level, are not teaching from the practical or experience of what they are teaching. You need to have passion to succeed in business. You need to love what you are doing. You need to have wisdom. Wisdom, passion surpasses whether you got a distinction, a merit, or a credit at university level. And if you've seen successful business persons, are not those that made it at academic level. I've been doing business, not only in the academic sector. I've run transport business before, yeah, and I've done a bit of farming here and there. Okay. But my passion is in education. So when you have passion, you do it well. And it's difficult for me to teach you entrepreneurship. I can teach you the values of entrepreneurship, but what needs to be inculcated in everyone is that you can be an entrepreneur as well as an intrapreneur. Like for you, Chilufya, you can contribute to the success of ZNBC. ZNBC has competitors, but ZNBC must set its target. What is it that you can bring to ZNBC that can bring in income? That if you're not funded by government, the sources that you would have brought in, your initiative, using your wisdom and passion, will actually bring this institution higher. And you may not even ask for funding from government. You should be the ones contributing to government in terms of dividends.
Right. Well, wonderful, wonderful words from the professor there. Just a quick reminder to those who are just joining us. This is Investment Trends, and we are looking at education in Zambia, the education sector, how this is contributing to the growth of Zambia's economy. But I'm on set now with Professor Pinalo Chifonakeni, who is the Vice Chancellor at the University of Lusaka, and he's telling us how he has sustained this business. You know, you recently just had your 5th graduation, so that is a very good step in terms of just how we are seeing more graduates coming from the university. But let's talk about, again, the issue of, you know, the syllabus. Is there a way that you as educators can sit together and say, let's revise this system, let's change it so that we can be competitive on a global scale? Because, you know, you want to have people who are learning what they're going to be doing in the industry and actually be able to practice it and not just have it in theory and fail to probably hold a mic or switch on a microphone. Is there anything like that in the pipelines in terms of you educators? I
think through the Higher Education Authority, I think that's something they're trying to get to, where you have a common ground in terms of the curriculum, such that when you're talking about a graduate in accountancy, a graduate in, you'll have some common characteristics that you expect to get. Because if you said University of Lusaka has got its own unique curriculum that is good, University of Lusaka is in a global village, and we cannot cater for everyone. And like you have said, we're in a global village and we want society to benefit from what we have. And if you put the issue of finance aside, the issue of profits aside, you know, like you said, if you do something passionately, money will just follow. If I became a pastor and convince everybody, you'll see the tithe and offering that I'll get. Just from the convincing that people will get. So it's an aspect that we need to work towards. And like I've said, through the Higher Education Authority, this is what the country is working towards. The government is interested in that.
Okay, where do you see UNILAS in the next 5 years, Professor?
We see UNILAS as being one of the best universities globally. That which everyone would opt to get through. And we want to contribute to the development of this country. And just to change the way we do things, be in social, political, and economic spheres. We want to be speaking the same language. We don't want in the next 10 years to see any thatched village. We want to see a village that has got iron sheets. Why should you have thatched houses in this era? When you look at how many of us have come out from those villages, and what is it that we're doing to contribute to that? And it's through the education that we have. Look at how Asia has developed. It's through its skills and through its initiatives.
In approximately, can you just tell us how many jobs you have created? We've
created about 110 permanent jobs. And we've got about 190 part-time jobs.
All right.
And from that, you can tell how much we are contributing to the economy in terms of pay as you earn and the other associated taxes.
In terms of you know, challenges, just let's look at some of the challenges that you've encountered in running the business, in running the school, in dealing with students, in dealing with fellow educators.
It's challenges are immense, and of course, it's, like I said, you can't just succeed smoothly without any challenge. You've challenged from the skills that you'd want to have in your faculty, and also challenges in terms of, like I was saying, the competition, the perceived competition, because everybody sees that like, oh yeah, there's money in there, so you see them as competitors coming on board. And of course, there are certain rules and regulations are welcome, but it also depends on how they are formulated. We need rules and regulations that are not reactive. We need rules and regulations that are proactive, that you set out rules and regulations that will stand the test of time.
All right. So we cannot end with, without you just giving a word to that entrepreneur out there who wants to get into anything they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And they feel like, starting slowly, I'll start tomorrow, procrastinating.
Now the key is passion. If you have passion and you are not in a hurry to make money and you are willing to sacrifice, I think it's a good venture to get into something that you have passion in, because you share your values and the others will also benefit and families benefit from that. Because like you create employment, you contribute to the economy, you contribute to the social welfare of society. Yeah.
All right.
So
Professor?
you just get into something that you love and it will be good.
And it will be good.
Yeah.
So it's doing something like
that
you're not
you
looking
love.
forward to the pay, you're just looking forward to working.
Yes.
Because you love what you do.
You love what you do. Love your family. If you love your family, you love your wife, passionately you get them.
All right.
And there will be no confusion.
Of course.
Yes.
All right. Professor, thank you so much for coming through to the program.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best in churning out more graduates who are practical, who are going to grow this economy.
And they think outside the book.
Thinking outside the book.
Not the box, the book.
Thinking outside the book. Thank you so much once again,
Thank
Professor.
you. Most welcome.
Well, this is where we wrap up. And I'm sure that you've learned and understood the importance of education in growing any economy. You need a well-informed citizenry and citizens that think outside the book, outside the box, and are able to practice and put to task or to put to practice exactly what they're learning in the classroom. Thank you very much to the professor for coming through today and just being a part of this show. We'll see you next week with another interesting program on another aspect. This is Investment Trends. Bye-bye.